Greetings, kindred. I am Voivode Maquette, and welcome back to our World of Darkness and another playlist of Level by Level. And in this one, we are going to be handling Dominate, or as they like to call it, Mentis Imperium, Snake Charming, or Mesmerism. There's a few different nicknames to this. Now, this power is most common around the Ventrue, Malkavian, Tzimisce, and Lasombra clans. And it's very unique, actually, to Vampire the Masquerade 5th edition as towards other editions of this game, due to the fact that the Malkavians, for one, used to have a whole discipline dedicated to themselves called Demontation, which has now been condensed down to one level of the Dominate power. On top of that, also, the Tzimisce, who used to practice Animalism, Auspex, and Vicissitude, now have Animalism, Dominate, and Protean. And they still do get their Vicissitude powers together using amalgams with Dominate and Protean, but Auspex is just completely gone. Now, there is a small bloodline of Tzimisce that I'm quite fond of, known as the Old World or Old Clan Tzimisce, and they do practice Animalism, Auspex, and Dominate. So there is a way using predator types and things like that where you'd still be able to get those disciplines in that way. Now, so getting into what it is going to take to learn Dominate other than Clan, we're going to start with the Resonance, which is Phlegmatic. And the Phlegmatic humor, just as a reminder, is they all have certain correspondences, and the element is going to be water. The Jungian function is going to be intuition. The hormone is going to be your pituitary gland. And then your emotions and conditions are going to be laziness, apathetic, calm, controlling, and sentimental. So it's going to be a given pool of that easily to control and forcefulness of the control as a mix on that. So that is going to be what you're looking at there for when it comes to what type of humor you will need or what kind of resonance you would need. And that also corresponds very well to the Auspex discipline as well. Those two mix together as it all has to do with the mentality of the victim and of the predator itself. And speaking of predator, we're going to jump directly into the predator type after that. And what predator types are going to be your ideal if you're trying to learn this power out of Clan? What do you want to start with as the way to feed? Since Phlegmatic is going to be the blood type, what predator types specifically go for that type of blood? And the very first one that we're going to see is going to be the Cleaver, which is you feed covertly from yours or someone else's mortal family and friends with whom you still maintain ties. And the reason behind that is because this is going to be something where you are going to be forced to, on a very regular basis, to try to overcome those individuals in some fashion. Now, the other discipline that you get from this is Animalism, and that does make a lot of sense because you would be quelling them a lot, but this one is actually just full-on outright overriding their memories. After that, you're looking at the Scene Queen predator type, which says you rely on your familiarity with a certain subculture and a well-crafted pose, feeding on an exclusive subculture that believe that you to be one of them. So getting in there and actually blending in with society. That is going to be one of those things that also does come in and help you to gain access to that type of blood. So what exactly does the book have to say about this discipline? Dominate grants the vampire the ability to control the actions of others, manipulate their memories, and force living creatures into acts they would not perform of their own volition. At its most basic, Dominate enables a vampire to make a victim forget the feed they just endured or enjoyed. At its most dangerous, it allows kindred to enslave entire crowds of kine. This is the beast at its most cruel and controlling. Dominate acts as a bludgeon to enforce the masquerade create submissive servants, and reinforce the self-assuredness of the kindred. When using this discipline, kindred feel omnipotent, although the wisest of them know that this too may be shackles of a kind, slipped upon them by the blood. So, with this one, I still really love the fact that V5 pushes the fact that these disciplines can become an addiction of some sort. And that's what I get when it says that this discipline could be a shackle of some kind. That the fact that this discipline could very well become a habit forming thing where you're just used to getting your way all the time and you're going to do whatever you can. In the introduction video, when we saw Tally the Hound use it on Fiorenza Savannah, that really does call to mind what that's talking about. The fact that we will just see it as it'll be easier to handle things this way mentality. And I think that humans get into that mentality. In fact, that's one of the telltale signs that vampires are so human, is their ability to fall into habit-forming uses of disciplines. So the characteristics of this says, most dominate powers require eye contact with the victim. Once they establish contact, dominate holds the gaze of the victim until the user conveys their command or commands, barring interference. Catching the eyes of someone who's actively attempting to avoid the vampire's gaze requires a contest of the user's resolve plus intimidation versus the target's wits plus awareness. It is, of course, impossible to catch their eyes if someone is squeezing their eyes shut or wearing a blindfold. But that person should be easy prey to other tactics. Using dominate in combat or in a frantic situation is limited to people attacking or otherwise interacting with the user directly, as everyone else's attention is firmly focused on their own peril. Unless the user has supernatural means, such as telepathy, which is Auspex level 5, at their disposal, they must command the victim verbally. The victim must be able to hear the user and understand their language. Without terminal decree, which is dominate level 5, commands resulting in the obvious death or serious injury fail automatically. Subjects roll to resist commands resulting in other social or physical harm, such as undressing in public. Vampires cannot use dominate to extract information as the victim becomes a mindless puppet while under the influence. For example, the compel command, speak, results in blabbering word salad, while someone mesmerized to tell what you know about the assassin responds, what you know about the assassin. Dominate cannot make the subject do something they could not do on command, such as sleep. Ultimately, the storyteller determines what the discipline can accomplish, but should take care that dominate remains one discipline of many rather than a catch-all solution to every problem. Dominate cuts to the core of vampire mastery and predation. Thus, vampires must resist attempts to dominate them. A vampire of lower or stronger generation can resist dominate attempts from higher generation vampires by spending a willpower point, negating the effects completely. On a total failure on the roll of any dominate power, the vampire can no longer dominate that target for the rest of the story. Dominate threatens humanity, especially if the vampire has any principles involving personal freedom or forbidding violations of human integrity. Using it may incur stains. The type of discipline that we have with dominate is mental. This is your mind going into the mind of the other. The masquerade threat is low, barring the fact that someone dominating an entire auditorium to jump off the cliffs of Dover, it remains one of the more subtle vampire powers. And the blood resonance, as we had gone over before, is the phlegmatic, the blood of the submissive, or the dominant masters, enslavers, captains of industry, power trippers, cult leaders, and followers. So people who are used to either being dominant or being dominated. Both of those groups of people work fairly well when it comes to this power. Now, going over what it said as the characteristics, I do want to point out that I love the fact that vampires can now dominate vampires of lower generation, but if they spend a willpower trait, it can be negated completely. Because there are certain situations where somebody's just not going to have the willpower to be able to do it, or they're not going to be able to feel well spending the willpower, or there's going to be something that stops them from spending willpower. But the fact that a 13th generation kindred can now dominate an 8th generation kindred in specific circumstances is an amazing thing. The fact also that dominate does not allow you to tell somebody to do something that they cannot naturally do on command. Most people cannot just go to sleep. Most people need to have time to let their body shut down, to let their mind level out, and to go about things. But the fact that I have seen people use dominate so many times just going sleep just to get the things just to get the thing done, it does not work anymore. I love that. And in my opinion, if somebody said sleep, the person might try to go to sleep. They'll try to do their damnedest to do that, in which case they'll probably just lay down on the ground and attempt to sleep. And a vampire who doesn't know exactly what's going on or how their powers work to the full extent might actually think that worked, in which case they could get into a situation where they might accidentally spill the details of a certain mission that they have around the wrong person. Also, the idea that dominate can no longer be used to get straight answers out of people. I love that, because dominate used to just be the catch-all when it came to getting answers from someone. And now it's more of what you can do to make people do things to your own advantage. And I really do think that that limitation being placed does make it a little bit fair for everyone to enjoy the game, and for dominate users to have to be a little bit more inventive in how they use their powers. So this has been the overview of how Dominate itself works. The upcoming videos that we will be releasing for Level by Level will be all of the various powers on how Dominate works in V5, and I hope that this helps everybody with their character creation and play. I am Voivode Maquette. This is our World of Darkness and our playlist for Dominate in Level by Level. Class dismissed.